नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्व भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवम् श्रीचैतन्य ईश्वरम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। What is the end time?
Probably 7:10 and 7:15. Like 40 minutes we have. 40 minutes we have, Roger. 40 to 45 minutes. 7:10 we close, Roger. 7:10 to 7:15.
7:10 in your time, no? So what is that? 8 o'clock.
Okay, sir.
It was a little impossible for me to finish at 7:10 when I'm starting at 8.
No.
So what is 40
I mean
minutes?
7, 8. Yeah, 40 to 45 minutes.
Okay, and that includes Q&A, right?
Yeah, that includes Q&A. Even though we can extend like 5 to 10 minutes more.
Okay, that's your curse. You deal with me. You'll think twice before calling me again.
Sorry for it.
No, sorry what? I mean, you have to suffer with my hands. So we're reading from the Prayers by Queen Kunti, very powerful book. We're in the middle of the Prabhupada marathon, and there's a wonderful pastime where somebody who was giving a lot of trouble to devotees as a landlady uh, was met in a dream by none other than Mother Kunti, who told her that, don't trouble my devotees and you please buy this book. And the next day, when the devotees went across or whatever, she picked up books and saying that this lady came. When they gave her teachings of Queen Kunti, they said, this lady came in my dream. So these are bona fide prayers, wonderful prayers. I would urge all of you to remember as many prayers as you can from this. Even having completed Kartik Mass very recently, there's a very powerful prayer by Mother Kunti to the Supreme Lord in his form as Damodar. Gopyadade Tvekradagasa Damadavas Tate Shastru Kallanjana Sambramaksham Patram Niniya Bhaya Bhavanya Asthitasya Samam Vimohaya Dibhir Abhiyat Vidheti. So fear personified is scared of you, yet you are scared of your mother. Mother Kunti prays, and although she is in position, his aunt, she understood his position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada mentions many places that is the Pandavas and Queen Kunti and a few others like Bhishma, Drona, etc. They knew that Krishna was Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's what to speak about us recognizing the holy name in our that the Supreme Person is a holy name and they're non-different. Even the Supreme Person in his physical form was there, devotees could not understand. I mean, people could not understand. So some blissful soul has actually posted the Vedaves. And if somebody wants to share it, you can, so that everyone can read. Otherwise, you can read it by yourself. So we'll read from text 6 first, and then the others I'll just read through. Text 6 of the 8th chapter of the first canto, chapter entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti. There's no need for repetition because we'll keep it short. याजयित्वाश्वमेधैस्तं त्रिभिरुत्तमकल्पकैः तद्यशः पावनं दीक्षु शतमन्योरिवातनोत्. Translation and purport by Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya and the preeminent Shiksha Guru of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yadayitva, by performing Ashwamedahi, yajna in which a horse is sacrificed, him, that is King Yudhishthira, Tribihi, three, Uttama, best, Kalpakaihi, supplied with the proper ingredients and performed by able priests, Tat, that, Yashaha, fame, Pavanam, virtuous, Dikshu, all directions, Shatamanyoha, Indra, who performed 100 such sacrifices, Iva, like an Atanot spread. Translation, Lord Sri Krishna caused 3 well-performed Ashwamedha yajnas or horse sacrifices to be conducted by Maharaj Yudhishthira, and thus caused his virtuous fame to be glorified in all directions like that of Indra, but performed 100 such sacrifices. Purport. This is something like the preface to the performance of Ashwamedha Yajna by Maharaj Yudhishthira. The comparison of Maharaj Yudhishthira to the King of Heaven is significant. The King of Heaven is thousands and thousands of times greater than Maharaj Yudhishthira in opulence, yet the fame of Maharaj Yudhishthira was not less. The reason is that Maharaj Yudhishthira was a pure devotee of the Lord, and by his grace only was King Yudhishthira on the level of the King of Heaven. Even though he performed only 3 yajnas, whereas the King of Heaven performed hundreds. That's the prerogative of the devotee of the Lord. The Lord is equal to everyone, but a devotee of the Lord is more glorified because he is always in touch with the All Great. The sun rays are equally distributed, but still there are some places which are always dark. This is not due to the sun, but to the receptive power. Similarly, those who are sent person devotees of the Lord get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord, which is always equally distributed everywhere. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'll quickly read the next 2 verses with the translation of Prabhupada as well. Atmantriya Pandaputramscha Sanayodhava Samyutaha Dvaipanayadhirvipraihi Pujidai Pratipujitaha. Lord Sri Krishna then prepared for his departure. He invited the sons of Pandu after having been worshipped by the Brahmanas headed by Srila Vyasadeva. The Lord also reciprocated greetings. Purport. Apparently, Lord Sri Krishna was a Kshatriya and was not worshipable by the Brahmanas. But the Brahmanas present there, headed by Srila Vyasadeva, all knew him to be the personality of God, and therefore they worshipped him. The Lord reciprocated the greetings just to honor the social order that a Kshatriya is obedient to the orders of the Brahmanas. Although Lord Sri Krishna was always offered the respect due to the Supreme Lord from all responsible quarters, the Lord never deviated from the customary usages between the 4 orders of society. The Lord purposely observed all these social customs so that others would follow him in the future. You can go to the next verse. Text 8, 6, 7, 8 is what we are covering today. Gantum Kritamatir Brahman Dwarakam Ratamastitaha Upalebhe Abhidavantim Uttaram Bhayavikwalam. As soon as he seated himself on the chariot to start for Dwaraka, he saw Uttara hurrying toward him in fear. But all the members of the family of the Pandavas were completely dependent on the protection of the Lord, and therefore the Lord protected all of them in all circumstances. The Lord protects everyone, but one who depends completely upon him is especially looked after by the Lord. The father is more attentive to the little son who is exclusively dependent on the father. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Just give me a minute. Thank you very much. So, great opportunity to speak about the Avatari to the devotees of Avatari Desh. This is the context of the 8th chapter of the first canto, where it is mentioned. This whole chapter is essentially about Krishna protecting Parikshit from the Brahmastra, which was released by Ashwatthama, whom in previous chapters we have read was punished, and the Pandavas had punished, and he had then been released by the Supreme Lord after Arjuna cut off the jewel on his head, which was equivalent to cutting off his head in one sense. And so therefore, this is the chapter where apart from the Brahmastra that was supposed to be annihilating King Parikshit itself got annulled by the Supreme Lord. And apart from that, there is a wonderful set of prayers of Queen Kunti, and it also sets the setting for Shri Bhishma Deva's departure, when King Yudhishthira laments about in similar fashion, except that Arjuna's lamentation was prior to the war and Yudhishthira's was post the war. So we see that the Pandavas, along with Kunti, Draupadi, Gandhari, everyone had been going towards the process of, they were engaged in offering oblations to the departed souls at the Ganga. And like Krishna is mentioning in the first chapter itself, if community projects are not properly taken care of, then Lupta Pindo Daga Kriya, offering water and oblations to the senior departed souls, will not happen if properly samskaras are not observed. And so therefore, after having offered water to the departed and lamenting intensely, all of them, they offered, they then again took bath in the water, and which was, why is it called so auspicious Ganga? Because it says that Raja Puta Sari Jale Apluta Haripadabjaraja, from the dust to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, the Ganga got purified, and therefore she has the capability of purifying the three worlds. So the Pandavas bathed in the Ganges along with the families. And the Mahabharata that is mentioned, that Vyasadeva ensured that all the people who are departed in the battle would reappear from their respective destinations and spend one night with the respective families, so that they were mentally satisfied. It's mentioned in some versions of the Mahabharata. However, we go by the Srimad Bhagwatam, which focuses in terms of the glorification of the Supreme Lord, and here especially we are talking about the Supreme Lord and his devotees. So then Krishna, along with the sages who were all there, they consoled Yudhishthira, then Kunti, Draupadi, Gandhari, all these people. They were lamenting the loss of their sons, and it's very difficult. Putrahinam graham shunyam, they say. A house without a son is empty. And because he's supposed to deliver the forefathers from the hellish planet called Pu, which where there's so much stress being laid on the son. But there are various versions in Smarta Vidhi which provide for the son, the adopted son, the son-in-law, and in their absence, even the daughter, to perform oblations to the forefathers. That way, the Sanatan Dharma has a lot of flexibility within very strict rules as well. And later on, it's mentioned that here it's mentioned that Kurupatim, so it says, all of whom were overcome with grief with the death of the devotee, who were all seated there by showing the relentless movement of time upon all entities. So Krishna did that. Bhuteshu kalasya gatim darshayanna pratikriyam. So Krishna exhibited that to all these people, and they could understand. Then Krishna had established Yudhishthira in his rightful kingdom. It is mentioned that Sadhya Sadhayitva ajata shatroho. Sadhayitva ajata shatroho swam rajyam kitavair kritam. Swam rajyam meaning it was his own kingdom. It was rightfully his kingdom, which was illegally usurped by Duryodhana and his brothers, and conspired along with by Dhritarashtra himself. So it's mentioned here, Sadhayitva ajata shatro swam rajyam kitavair kritam. So he established King Yudhishthira in his own kingdom, which was actually unfortunately stolen by cheaters. And it's mentioned here further that Ghatayitva sato rajna kachasparsha kshatayushaha. meaning their lives were shortened because of this unfortunate activity. And it's mentioned several times in the scriptures that if you offend a glorious personality and the supreme personality of Godhead, you will eventually have to face ruin. It's like that. They'll be completely destroyed, and this is no difference because it is said that Uttama kalpagahi tat yasha pavanam dikshu shatamanyor ivatanot. And why were their lives shortened? That is mentioned that because they pulled or grabbed Draupadi's hair, and so they were all destroyed. They had to suffer that. So people may say many things about the Mahabharata battle, sometimes being not so rightful, and Krishna sometimes acting in a manner that did not seem very righteous in between. But there are 2-3 points in this to understand. Hey, you had an offer. You could have taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but you chose his army. So you got to suffer. 1. 2, the kind of adharma that was meted out on Draupadi ji won't even happen in Kali Yuga, gross Kali Yuga. It will not be done like this. That the Kulavadu is being dragged forcefully to the middle of the assembly, and then they try to dishonor her, disrobe and dishonor her. So that's unthinkable. And for that kind of adharma, it was legitimate that the Kauravas had to go through what they had to go through. Okay, rules of combat were violated when Duryodhana had his thigh broken, but then Duryodhana had pointed to his thigh and asked her to be seated there, and therefore Bhima had to take a vow, and Kshatriya's vows are very, very critical. So then he had to fulfill his vow. And similarly, for Dushasana's chest being torn open and his arms being ripped apart and the blood being drunk. Although Bhima, it's mentioned, didn't really drink it, but he just took it close to his lip, and it's like that. It's mentioned in some versions of Mahabharata. So he had to do all this. So the kind of adharma that these people had to face, the Pandavas had to face, and Bhishma laments about it when he sees them, because really shedding tears that the Pandavas had to go through so much. So it is only fair that the lives of those people who offended the Lord's pure devotees, they were shortened. We see even in the context of Shishupala, who kept rebuking and chastising and abusing Krishna. It's mentioned that he lost all good fortune. You will frequently read this in Bhagwatam and Krishna book, that he lost all good fortune. So when somebody loses good fortune, then that's like it's mentioned in Kali Yuga, Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya. The Bhagya becomes Manda. And so therefore the Ayusha, Kshata Ayusha, it becomes, the life becomes shortened. And Kshatriya itself means one who protects those who are distressed or who are wounded. Rayate Kshataha. And about Yudhishthira also, well, Yudhishthira means one who's steady in battle. He wouldn't really retreat from a battle. So he's so steady. And steady in a battle means he's steady in all battles. It's not just the battle that is fought on the battlefield. The kind of tribulations that the Pandavas had to go through. And Draupadi and the Pandavas accuse Yudhishthira about being inactive to the point of being important. And Yudhishthira tolerated all that and spoke undeviatingly from the path of Dharma. We won't get into the topic even in the question and answer session. I'm sure it's very tempting to ask about Draupadi and Krishna and all that, but some other day we can have a separate session on that. And so here it's mentioned that Tad Yasha Pavanam Dikshu Shatamanyori Vatano. His fame, his pure fame, spread in all directions like that of Indra. Indra is called Shatamanyor because he has performed 100 sacrifices. So the horse sacrifices that are actually mentioned here, they were actually carried out later. So the chronology is not so important. This is a summary of the events without any particular chronology. It's provided in Bhagavatam. In fact, in Bhagavatam, you'll frequently come across events like this. So we would understand that the principle is more important than just the chronology of things. And apart from that, the fact also remains that there could be kalpa bheda. There could be the same pastime which has been enacted with a little bit of a difference on a different sequence across continuous cyclic time. in the Vedic universe. So then, this is Sutta Goswami speaking to Shaunaka and his 88,000 rishis. So we talked about Draupadi, who is actually Artha, and he is speaking to the Jijnasus, who is the 4 types of Sukritis who take shelter of Krishna. So they're involved here. Artha is in one sense, Draupadi is an example. Also, Gajendra is a better example. And Shaunaka, he represents the Jijnasus who are inquisitive. So, so here it's mentioned that in the 7th verse that Amantriya Pandu Putram cha Sainayodhava Samyutaha. So Krishna spoke and consoled the Pandavas. And then it's mentioned here that Viprai Pujitahi Pratipujitaha. Pratipujita. First he worshipped the Brahmanas headed by Vyasadeva, who is none other than his own empowered incarnation, Shaktivash Avatara. He worshipped him, and in return, they also worshipped him. And it is mentioned as Pratipujitaha, Pujitahi Pratipujitaha. So he worshipped the Vipras and the Brahmanas worshipped him again. Krishna, of course, is Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namo. The Brahmanas are most worshipable for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To the point that it is mentioned that Jarasandha, in that famous battle in which the Lord retreated and was famously called Ranichor, he had put Brahmanas up front so that Krishna would not attack them. The heading being the Brahmanas, so to say. Of course, the other reason that the Lord retreated was to go and explicitly retrieve Mother Rukmini from her distress and accept her as his consort, which he is. So there's another word that is mentioned here in previous verses that Saha Anujam. Kurupatim is Yudhishthira and Saha Anujam. So they were all consoled by Krishna. Kurupatim is Yudhishthira and Saha Anujam is his disciple, is his brothers, the Pandavas. They were all consoled, and it's mentioned that after that he worshipped the Pandavas, the Brahmanas led by Vyasadeva, who in turn worshipped him back, because it's very clear that they knew he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then he desired to go to Dwaraka. He was seated on his chariot, which was drawn by Daruka. He was flanked by Satyaki and Uddhava. Uddhava is mentioned, and the word used for Satyaki is Saineya. Saineya means son of Sini. And Satyaki is a very important personality. We must know that he is, apart from the Supreme Lord and the Pandavas, he was the only person who fought on the side of the Pandavas who had survived the battle. Although, Krutavarma was on the side of the Pandavas, but he fought on the side of the Kauravas due to various reasons. And if I'm not mistaken, Shalya also. So those are the Shalya was, I think, later on killed by Yudhishthira. So anyway, Satyaki was he's a student of Arjuna and a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. He accompanied the Supreme Lord when he went to the Kuru Sabha, and he also knew that the Lord was going to be imprisoned. He was a very intelligent personality. And Satyaki Sabrajitaha, he cannot be defeated. His name comes in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the very first chapter, I think verse number 4, it says, Yudhamanyuscha Vikranta. Just one second. That's what it is. Yeah. Yuyudhana Viratascha Drupadascha Maharata. Yuyudhana. His name is not Yudhamanya, sorry. Yuyudhana. Yuyudhana is a very powerful personality, and he's a fierce fighter. He sometimes is mentioned in the Mahabharata battle that he would destroy huge parts of the Akshahinis, just like Arjuna would. And now it begs the question, why would the Supreme Lord worship the Brahmanas? It comes in the part where Narada Muni visits the palaces of Dwaraka, and you would see that the Supreme Lord is worshipping the Brahmanas as well. And it's mentioned that that standard of him, Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. And it's mentioned in the purport here by Srila Prabhupada that Krishna personally worshipped the Brahmanas. It's like a Loka Vichara. It was out of setting the right example for people in what has to be done. It's mentioned here that, the Lord never deviated from the customary usages between the four orders of society. The Lord purposely observed all these social customs so that others would follow him in the future. Yadyad acharati shreshta tat tat deva itaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Mentioned in the third chapter. And in the very next verse, verse 22, Name partasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana anavaptam avaptavyam varta eva cha karmani, Krishna says. O son of Pritha, there is no work prescribed for me within all the three planetary systems, nor am I in want of anything, nor have I a need to obtain anything. So one thing is that somebody may not want something, but they actually have a need and they're restricting the need. But the Lord is not like that. He doesn't need anything also. He doesn't need to obtain anything. Yet, I am engaged in observing my prescribed duties. So these prescribed duties are very, very critical to be performed. Because Krishna says, Yadi hyaham na vartayam jat karmani atandritah mama varatvatman vartande manusha parda sarvasha. For if I ever fail to engage in carefully performing prescribed duties, O Partha, certainly all men would follow my path. And he says, Usideir ime loka na kuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha kartasyam upahanyam ima prajaha. If I did not perform the prescribed duties, Krishna says, all these worlds would be put to ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population, and I would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So the Supreme Lord, although he is not obliged to, performs his duty in order to set an example. And Krishna says further that Shakta karma abhidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvams tatha saktas chikirshu loka sangraham. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment, for the sake of leading people on the right path. So that's the point. There is a difference in desires between a person who is not Krishna conscious and one is Krishna conscious, Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. And that is in terms of performing duties appropriately, which are prescribed. And we must remember that one of the problems of Kali Yuga is the degradation of the Brahminical race. It's even mentioned that Vibhishana and Lord Ramchandra, when they solemnized their friendship, Vibhishana said that if ever I fail in your in meeting our commitments in terms of friendship, may I please be born as a Brahmana in Kali Yuga. So it's a strange kind of point. So now you might think that a Kshatriya and a Rakshasa, they are inferior to a Brahmana. Please remember, Vibhishana was already a son of a Brahmana, Vishravana. Vishravana is Kubera, and they were both sons of Vishrava. Vaishravana is Kubera, sons of Vishrava. Kubera, Ravana, and all these people, Vibhishana, Kumbhakarna. So it's mentioned, therefore, that the Asuras, so to say, are born in, Rakshasas are born in Kali Yuga as Brahmanas, which is why they don't wear, they do not perform their duties. They simply wear a Janayu and claim themselves to be Brahmanas and start meat shops and, shoe shops and made of leather and call it like Sharma footwear and stuff like that. So that's a kind of degradation of the Brahminical race, which incidentally was started by Shringi's cursing of Parikshit Maharaj. Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the degradation sort of the Brahminical race started with that. So Brahmins not performing their duty appropriately. And here it's mentioned that the Brahmanas, they also perform their duty appropriately, which is to worship the Supreme Lord, who though is performing the role of a Kshatriya, is a Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that they knew. And so therefore, they worshipped him. And so that is a very important point that it was mentioned that a Kshatriya is obedient to the orders of the Brahmanas, which was mentioned earlier also. Although he was a Dvija Bandhu, Ashwatthama, Mother Draupadi showed the compassion that had to be shown by a mother, which she assumed that Kripi will go through the same problem which she went through when she lost her sons. And at the same time, she also wanted to set an example of worshipping the Guru Tulya, as they say, of the Guru equivalent, which is the Brahminical race. So, therefore, Lord Krishna reciprocated the greetings just like the Brahmanas did. Pujita, Pradipujita, both happened. And in the 8th verse, Srila Prabhupada mentions that all the members of the family of the Pandavas were completely dependent on the protection of the Lord. Now, one of the symptoms of surrender is Rakshas Satiti Vishwa, so the undeviated faith that Krishna will protect. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions, Abhashya Rakhyube Krishna Vishwasha Palon. It is one of the qualities of surrender, which is that Krishna will definitely save us, Krishna will definitely protect. And that was a big difference between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, or between the Devas and Asuras, so to say. The Devas, even when they get into trouble, they approach the Supreme Lord. Indrari Vyakulam Lokam Radayandi Yuge Yuge. Etejam Shakalapumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So you may see even like demigods like Brahma and Indra briefly getting bewildered by the Supreme Lord's opulence and his illusory energy. But the fact of the matter is that they understand, they atone, they repent, and they offer restitution, so to say. Restitution they do, which is one thing is just to lament or repent. Another thing is to offer something positive, like Brahmaji's wonderful prayers, and then willingness to be born as a Shudra in Kali Yuga, it's mentioned in Chaitanya Mangal, because of which he appeared as Haridas Thakur. And Indra and Surabhi, Mother Surabhi, offering wonderful penances to the Supreme Lord and offering milk abhishek, so to say, is Godru Madhviv, as we know. So that's the difference between the demigods and the asuras. And if you're a devotee of the Lord, what to speak about the Supreme Lord? It's mentioned, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarver Guna Istasya Samasate Sura. Undeviated devotion to the Lord, when they're performing, they get all the qualities of the demigods in them. But those who are not devotees, what qualities do they have? Harava Bhakta Se Kuto Mahat Guna Manoratenasti Dhabato Bahi. They wallow and they wander in the mental plane. But the devotees of the Lord, they have qualities equivalent to that of the demigods and probably surpassing them. So therefore, it is mentioned here that King Yudhishthira, he performed 3 sacrifices, Ashwamedha Yajnas. Ashwamedha is, of course, forbidden in Kali Yuga. Ashwamedham Gavalambam Sanyasam Palapaitrikam Devarena Sutotpatti Kalau Pancha Vivarjayet. 5 things are forbidden in Kali Yuga, one of which is Ashwamedham, which is performing the horse sacrifice and therefore offering the horse back into the sacrifice. And of course, it gets the rejuvenated body, it's mentioned. But this is forbidden in Kali Yuga as per scripture. 3 of them were performed by Yudhishthira Maharaj. And it's mentioned that Yudhishthira Maharaj's fame rivaled that of Indra, who had performed 100 sacrifices. That is extraordinary. Prabhupada mentions is that Yudhishthira Maharaj's fame is not less, because the reason is that Maharaj Yudhishthira was a pure devotee of the Lord. And like we mentioned, if you're a pure devotee of the Lord, all the qualities of the demigods are manifest in them. And so by the grace of the Supreme Lord, King Yudhishthira was on the level of the King of Heaven. Although he performed only 3 yajnas, though he's called Shatakratu, one of the name given of Indra is he performed 100 sacrifices. So he performed, it's mentioned hundreds actually in the purport. In the translation, Prabhupada says 100. So that Prabhupada mentions the purport that this is the prerogative of the devotee of the Lord. The Lord is equal to everyone. Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshtosti na priyaha. But a devotee of the Lord is more glorified because he's always in touch with the all great. The example given of the piece of iron lying in fire, becoming fire itself, it develops the qualities of the Supreme Lord. Or by initiation, it is mentioned, Chaikale Krishna kare tar atmasam, Bhikakale bhakta kare atma shamarpan. A disciple or a devotee, he takes shelter of the Supreme Lord and surrenders to him, atma shamarpan. At that time, Krishna gives him all the qualities that he himself possesses. Chaikale Krishna kare tare atmasam, makes him as good as him. Of course, it cannot be the God himself, Krishna himself, the Lord himself. but he develops qualities, which means qualitatively becomes one with the Supreme Lord. Of course, we have great potential to mess up good benefits that we get, and therefore, after initiation, many of us go by the wayside. So, but a devotee, a pure devotee of the Lord, he's as good as the Lord. Sakshad Haritvena Samasta Shastraya. You can see an example of Prathu Maharaj was willing to not do his 100th sacrifice or conduct his 100th sacrifice because the Supreme Lord requested him. What more? The purpose of all yajnas is to please Vishnu. Yajna vai Vishnu? Yajna is Vishnu. And dharma svanu anushtita pumsam vishwaksena kathasya na utpayati yadiratim samaya vekevalam. So many people worship so-called Brahmanas even in ritualistic activity. But it's Shama Eva Kevalam if doesn't develop desire towards the Supreme Lord, because many people may be so-called Brahmanas but not practicing devotion service. That's very, very critical. That one should please the Supreme Lord by one's activities. Krishna Arthat Akila Cheshtita, Rupa Goswami says. All activities are for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. And because though the Lord is equal to everyone, but a devotee of the Lord is more glorified because he's always in touch with the all great. Like Ramanand Rai in his exchange of conversation with the Supreme Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the banks of Godavari. We have a temple there on the banks of Godavari in Rajamundri. So he says that Mahaprabhu asks him the question that who is the most famous? And Ramanand Rai says the fame of the devotee is most famous. Like Lokanath Goswami is glorified by Narottam Das Thakur. Ebejas Gushuk Tribuna. Like Srila Prabhupada, his fame is all great. It's increasing, ever increasing. Every time you distribute a book, you're distributing Prabhupada. And so that is why. And Krishna is pleased when you glorify his devotee, like you will come later to know when Bhishma Dev is glorified. It's also mentioned, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, you distribute books all your life, and one day you will find out that the hand that takes the book is blue. So Krishna is personally pleased when you glorify Srila Prabhupada, read his books, distribute his books, live his books. And that way the fame of a devotee increases all the time because he's in touch with the Supreme Lord. Prabhupada said these books are personally dictated by Krishna. So naturally, because he's in touch with the Supreme Lord, can he actually see the Supreme Lord and hear the Supreme Lord. And the example given here that the sun's rays are equally distributed, but still there are some places which are always dark. This is not due to the sun, but due to the receptive power. You cannot close the windows of the door and say that there is no sun. So similarly, those are sent person devotees of the Lord, 100% devotees of the Lord. They get the full-fledged mercy of the Lord, which is always equally distributed everywhere. I can remember my spiritual master, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, mentioning this point once, that the mercy is there all the time, blessings are there all the time. But some people take it, some people don't. Some people benefit from it, some people don't. Oxygen is there everywhere, you got to still breathe. The Pandavas actually did. They took in the mercy of the Lord, and the Kauravas didn't. And therefore they had to suffer. And Kshatayushaha, they had the opportunity. Draupadi is Shakti Tattva. She's like one of the Lakshmis, and she's as good as one of the Lakshmis, and they try to violate the modesty of the goddess of fortune, and they suffered really. When you try to enjoy Shakti without Shaktiman, you suffer, just like Ravana was killed because he tried to enjoy Shakti without Shaktiman. So the whole purpose is that one of the qualities of a pure devotee is, especially when you surrender to the Lord, it's a symptom of surrender that Raksha Satiti Vishwaso, and the undivided faith that Krishna will protect, the hope that Krishna will protect. At the Bhava platform, one of the qualities is Asha Bandhaha. There is the unending faith that Krishna will protect. Krishna will protect under all circumstances. So that's the hallmark of the Pandavas. Despite going through all these difficulties, you'll come to Kunti Maharani's prayers later that Bhavato darshanam yasmada punar bhava darshanam. Every time we get calamities, vipata santu mam shashvat. We get you darshan because you come to save us. Therefore, please give me more calamities, Mother Kunti is praying. I don't think any of us would feel like doing it. Although it's mentioned in the ISKCON history that there's some devotees started praying for calamities, and Prabhupada explicitly gave an order that already there is sufficient karma, sufficient problem, don't have to pray for more calamities. Kunti Maharani's platform is very, very high, so she will be able to do so. And the Pandavas are at such a high platform that despite being exposed to and enforced so many travails in their lives and distress in their lives, they never lost faith in the Supreme Lord. They had complete faith in the Supreme Lord. And because of that, the Lord has no option but to like sell himself, get himself sold, as they say. The Pandavas purchased him. Like Prabhupada says, Mother Yashoda became mother of Krishna because she purchased anxiety for Krishna. So the Pandavas purchased anxiety for Krishna. But they wanted dharma samsthapanartha. They knew Nara Narayana, for example, Arjuna and Krishna. Their purpose was to establish dharma. So all the Pandavas, they were together. They were originally demigods. They were all there to assist the Supreme Lord in his mission to establish dharma. So for that purpose, they were willing to go through every form of tribulation. They purchased anxiety for Krishna. And when somebody performs pure devotion service, Krishna has nothing to give him. He can only give himself. That is why Krishna doesn't award pure devotion service easily. It's mentioned in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He may give us a car, he may give us a bangla, he might give us residence in the Gulf, he might give us even a supportive environment, so to say, for our sense gratification of any type. But he will not give himself. And that is a prerogative of the devotees to give Krishna. That is why Narada means only gives Narayana. And pure devotees can give the Supreme Lord. It, like Srila Radhanath Maharaj says, it takes one to make one. Those who are devotion can make devotees. Bhaktishtu bhakta sankhena parijayate. Only devotees can give devotion. Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hai Sadhu Sang. The root of bhakti, birthplace of bhakti is Sadhu Sangha, is the association of devotees. And by associating with such devotees and associating with Kunti Maharani's prayers and learning from the example of such wonderful devotees like the Pandavas, who are glorified in books like Bhagwatam by Sanatana Goswami also. Associating with the sadhu means to follow his instructions. So Srila Prabhupada says, distribute my books, so please distribute his books the extent you can. We know that in the Muslim world, the Muslims in the Western world are very much interested in understanding other cultures and other religions and faith. I'm not sure how it is in the Middle East, but there are obviously governmental restrictions, and justifiably so. It is their country, they can run the rules they want. There is not an officially a secular country, so they can feel free to enforce what they can. A majority of the Western countries are actually Christian, whether we like it or not. The parties which are Christian democratic. So whatever be the situation, as devotees, we have to study the Gita, distribute the Gita, study the Bhagwatam. This is called the Gita daily, I think. This is called every day with Bhagavad Gita. And I'm giving a Bhagwatam class on that. So I would like to speak again about Bhagavad Gita in that. That please read the Gita and distribute the Gita. Show your gratitude to Krishna. Gita means gratitude is the attitude, as they say. So express that. And Prabhupada once was asked by one of the disciples that when somebody takes your book, is initiated by you. Prabhupada said, yes, you can say that. So you're making people touch the Gita. You're making them get in touch with Prabhupada. And following instructions of a pure devotee pleases Krishna. And we will hear about a prayers from a pure devotee, Mother Uttara, in the next verse. Wonderful prayer. You can memorize that also. Thank you. So there is a question by Mother Swati. I hope it is Mother Swati, because Swati is sometimes a name used by some people as a, could be like a short name also for Prabhus. In any case, she's asking Hare Krishna Prabhuji, why they kill horse in Ashwamedha Yajna? Is it not an offense by killing a horse in Ashwamedha Yajna? The point is they take the horse around. The process that is followed is that they offer Ashwamedha, means it is the horse that is being sacrificed. And then it regenerates. It gets a fresh body. It even gets a pure, it gets a divine body many times. The horse gets a divine body and it proceeds higher up, which is more critical. The Brahmanas, those days, could actually do that. They could make the demigods appear. They could make the Supreme Lord appear. And so therefore it is practical for them to offer something. It is like saying, why is the doctor conducting an operation when it is to cure us? So they're curing the life of a conditioned soul, a lower grade animal, so to say, by giving it a higher life. And for that process, they are using the process of mantras and so on and so forth. And whatever is sanctioned by scriptures, we can do. But it is not sanctioned by scriptures for Kali Yuga. So we don't do it. Those days, there were qualified brahmanas who could rejuvenate horses. Even cow sacrifice used to happen sometimes. Gavalambam. They would regenerate the cow, give it a new body. The same soul gets a new body. So the brahmanas those days had the strength and the capabilities and the power of their mantras. Like King Vena was killed by the chanting of mantras by the brahmanas. In modern day, brahmanas are oppressed by administrative class. But those days, brahmanas could run the show and they could give life similarly. So they would regenerate horses in some cases or give it a higher birth some cases, as the case may be. So that's my answer to your question. Do you have any other questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Tandavat Pranam.
No problem.
Prabhuji, in the discourse you said that trying to enjoy the Shakti, that is the goddess of fortune within the Shaktiman. What is the actual meaning of that, Prabhuji? And moreover, the understanding is Bhagavan Sri Krishna is the master of all opulences, unlimited opulences. And wealth is one of that opulences. So why the emphasis on goddess fortune when Bhagavan Krishna is the supreme of everything? And by worshipping Bhagavan Krishna, we can attain anything, even materially strictly speaking, though it is not the ultimate goal of a living being. Request you to provide a clarity.
You already answered the question. I reckon that probably asking this question for the sake of some others in the class, you probably know the answer. Like they say in North India, there is a saying that Lakshmi ki puja karoge, ullu pe sawar hoke aayegi. Lakshmi Narayan ki seva karoge, garud pe sawar hoke aayenge. So that's a choice. Whether you want to worship her on an owl or which is her vehicle, but she's the Supreme Lord on his Garuda. So the point is, Krishna acts through his energies. Prasya Shaktar Vivadeva Shuvate. At the absolute plane, Shakti Shaktimatam Abhedaha. Like Srimati Radharani is a female personality of Godhead. She's in many ways, they are non-different. Krishna energy and the energetic are non-different. So what happens is somebody who is not a devotee of the Lord, he wants to enjoy the energy of the Lord without the energetic, which is the Supreme Lord, without the Shaktiman. What does that mean? It means that if I have access to wealth or opulence of any types, suppose I'm a very beautiful person, assuming I'm beautiful, and I use my beauty to violate rules of the land or to break regulatory principles, that means I'm not connecting my Shakti to Shaktiman. The Shakti that is given by Krishna is to be used in service of Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yatyat vibhuti mat sattvam shrima durjitam evava tattad evabi gacchatam mama tejo amsha sambhavam. Every opulence that you see in the world around you is but a fragment of my opulence. Mama tejo amsha sambhavam, Krishna says, just a portion. So, nirbandha Krishna sambandhe, anything by itself is not bad, but if it is not engaged in service of the Lord, it is bad. To the extent it is mentioned, Kama Krishna Karmarpane Krodha Bhakta Dveshi Jane. Lust should be converted to love by engaging it in the lotus feet of the Lord. Anger should be against those who are envious of devotees and the Supreme Lord, likewise it is mentioned. So these are all good and bad points, positive and negative points that we have. Everything. As I said, Tadiya Vastu Govinda Sarvan Tubhyam Samarpayat. You take water from the Ganges and offer it to the Ganges. Everything belongs to Krishna. So everything should go to Krishna. That is why every Shakti should be used in service of Shaktiman. What did Hanuman do? Hanuman connected Shakti with Shaktiman. So he got blessings of the Lord. What did Ravana do? He separated Shakti from Shaktiman. So he suffered. That's the way to understand. So whatever opulence we have, wealth inclusive, we should use it in Krishna's service. That's the purpose of human existence. To the extent we can, we should do following Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Tena tyaktena bhunjito amagrita kasya svitanam, Ishopanishad says. We should take whatever is legitimately our quota, which could be fixed by Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and use it in service of the Supreme Lord. Everything else is to be use for the Supreme Lord in your service. Rupa Goswami set the example when he retired from household life, 50% of wealth to the for the service of the Supreme Lord and the Brahmanas, 25% for family, 25% for emergencies. We cannot do that. All of us cannot do that. So those of you who can should do it. Like Rupa Goswami mentions in one place that if you do not do as much as your capability in service, that is also seva aparadh. It is an offense. I heard His Holiness Chandramouli Maharaj mentioned long back in the lecture. He said, I mentioned probably before many audiences, probably to you also, Nevana, that Krishna sees what you are doing for him, which means which Shakti you are engaging in service of the Shaktiman. Krishna also sees what you are capable of doing for him, but you are still not doing. जो आदमी 10 रुपया दे सकता है वो 1 रुपया देता है तो वो अपराध है. दे सकता है. According to his capability, one should give. Like they say in the corporate world, you should operate on the stretch zone, extend yourself for the Supreme Lord. And then he's pleased. So he uses Shaktis. But what happens instead if we try to advance ourselves in this? Yanmaishwarya Shrutashribhi Edamana Puman, Mother Kunti praise comes later. One tries to advance in beauty, in opulence of other types like good birth, advancing his family, wealth, strength, etc. Edamana Madapuman, one is crazy about it. And Naiva Arhatya Abhitatam, they are not eligible for approaching the Supreme Lord who is the property of the materially impoverished. Tom Akinchana Gocharam. You're beyond the range of those people who are trying to advance in these opulences by themselves. In other words, whatever opulence we have, we should use it in the Supreme Lord's service. Yatha Shakti, as they say. And Krishna knows how much you're doing. I have a god brother, His Grace Ajanma Krishna Prabhu, who's a very powerful bass preacher, but he's a Grihastha. He has set up several bases or student communities in Delhi NCR. Last year he took voluntary retirement and is not focusing completely on preaching. He's just around my age, around 48, 49, maybe a little less younger than me. So he used to give 70% practically of his salary for Krishna service. He was vice president of an IT firm. So it's possible. It is just how much do you want to do? It's up to you. And Krishna will provide. In any case, it's Krishna who provides. So if you want to give more to him, you have a desire, Krishna will reciprocate. It applies not just wealth, all opulences. So that's what it is. Is that fine, Dayal Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Everything you have should be used for Dayal.
Yes.
Hari hai Dayal Mora.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
One more question by Varun Prabhu. He says, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, did Pan go to heaven after Swarga Rohan? Mahabharata, in some versions, it mentions that they went to the higher planets, the heavenly planets. But we go by the Srimad Bhagwatam, which was written by Vyasadeva even after writing all these other books, including Mahabharata. Ripened for the Vedic wisdom. And as per that, it is not mentioned. It clearly says the Pandavas retired timely and they went back to Godhead. That's what it says. Prabhupada mentions the purport also. So we are more inclined to go by that. Mother Swati is asking Hare Krishna Prabhuji, why did they... I'll answer that later because it's continuation of the same question. I'll have someone else answer someone else's question. Mother Radhika's question, though Ravana was an adharmi, but he was a bhakt of Lord Shiva, then why did not Shiva save him? A very good point. Let's just assume that somebody is your good fan, is a big fan of yours. You're a popular corporate or whatever you are, artist or something. Somebody is your big fan, but he blasphemes your husband. Would you accept him? No. Or your father? No. So quite similarly, Lord Shiva is Vaishnavana Meta Shambhu. He is the greatest of the Vaishnavas as per Srimad Bhagwatam. Lord Shiva worships Sankarshana. He meditates on him. You see him chanting on the Rudraksha. He's taking the Lord of Sankarshana and names of Sankarshana. And he says in Padma Purana himself, Sri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorme Sahasranama Tatulyam Ramanama Varamani. He takes the name of Lord Ramchandra also. He takes Sankarshana. He worships him. The greatest Vaishnava he is, as per Srimad Bhagwatam. And therefore, because he was a worshipper of the Supreme Lord, Ravana was blaspheming the Supreme Lord. One. Two, we must also understand these great personalities are not bound by our worship. They are not bound, especially like Lord Shiva. Maybe he's Ashutosh is another matter. He's easily pleased. He can be easily pleased by anybody, lower grade people, low class people. But the fact of the matter is that if somebody goes against dharma of the Lord, directly against the Supreme Lord, he will never make that mistake of going against the Supreme Lord. So therefore, in fact, there are instances of the Supreme Lord fighting with Lord Shiva. When Shiva took the side of Adharma, one or two places, because they were worshipping him. So those instances are also there in other Puranas. So we go by the fact that Lord Shiva is a great Vaishnava and he worshipped the Supreme Lord, and the fact that Ravana was going against the laws of the Supreme Lord, he did not side with him in the battle with the Supreme Lord. So that's what that is.
Thank you, Babaji. Thank you for giving us this association. As
somebody, Mother Swati's question is pending. Somebody else can answer it. The fact is that why they kill innocent animals? They don't kill innocent animals. The body is killed. The soul is the same, and it is given a fresh body. Please remember that. The soul lives in the body. These animals are not animals. We are not just PETA supporters. We are soul supporters. So the body of the animal is destroyed and it's given a fresh body. So that is what it is. So there is nothing happens to the animal in that sense. The animal doesn't die. The animal's body dies and is given a fresh body. This is to test the efficacy of mantras. So please remember that it is not like they do Ashwamedas daily. Ashwamedas happen once in a while. It is a very, very rare thing. That is also there. And that is why to perform 100 sacrifices is a big thing. Like Prithu Maharaj was doing 100 sacrifice and Indra came to stop his 100th sacrifice because he was getting fidgety, edgy on his seat, that he will take my throne, he thought. So that's the other thing about demigods. King Yudhishthira was as good as Indra, but Yudhishthira was not attached to opulence at all. That is why, even after doing 3 yajnas, his fame spread as much as Indra's. He's called Ajata Shatru. He had no enemies. So on that note, we conclude this session. Thank you very much for your patient listening. And
yeah, thank you, Babaji, and thank you for giving us inspiration. As you said earlier, we need to utilize our skills, our money, and whatever the Krishna has given to us. We need to utilize in the service of the Lord. And the best service is book distribution, which is in the month. And we have only 10 days. We are not going beyond that, because only we after the Gita, like we are having only 10 days. So there are some few devotees who are already doing the book distributions, and there are few devotees who are doing under the temple, by associating with temple and so on. So I request all the devotees to distribute some book, and it is under the guidance of some senior devotees. Not distribute books like simply by your own self. Under the guidance of some senior devotees, take shelter of the guidance of senior devotees, and distribute the books. And you need to, as Prabhuji said, we need to go according to our capability, actually beyond the capability what we have. But if you are doing under capable, like if I'm eligible to do, I can use my contacts. If I use my skills, I can engage others also in the service. But if I'm not doing it, then that is also a seva aparad, as Prabhuji has highlighted. So we need to give.
I have a quick point on that, if you don't mind.
Yes, Prabhuji,
please remember, this is the month of Marga Shirsha. Krishna says, Matsana Marga Shirshoham. It's dearest month of Krishna. And the gopis performed Katyani Vrata. They performed Katyani Vrata, and therefore they got a chance to associate with the Lord in this Rasa dance. So they could attain the Lord because they performed this Katyani Vrata. For us, ISKCON devotees, our Katyani Vrata is to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. And if we perform this Vrata, we will attain the Supreme Lord definitely.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you for that. And as you said, Prabhuji, if you distribute books, there's some day will come, like a blue hand will come and he will take the book. and he will know, okay, what is our service. So that is a beautiful point that you had. So I request all that, because I am also doing under the guidance of Jageshwar Prabhuji, who is associating with different temples, and we are placing in orders, because we are there because of the devotees, senior devotees, because we are nothing if we doesn't take shelter of senior devotees. We are nothing, because Krishna doesn't like who are individuals who work on their own mental platform with mental speculation. Krishna doesn't like it. That is why the Krishna has given the asset of senior devotees, their experience, and who is following the Guru Maharaj. So we need to take shelter of them. Under their guidance, we need to distribute the books. That is the best thing that we can do. And thank you for Prabhuji for giving us association with the short notice, even though you are in temple, but you have taken the service, and we got an opportunity to hear from you. And I request you, Prabhuji, to give us association more and more, so we can hear you from.
Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji. We need that guidance. We need that message, so that we can progress something, and we can serve like what you're serving, like Guru Maharaj, from
I
so
agree.
many years full time. Yeah, Prabhuji.
Just mukam karoti
Yes.
vachalam. I'm just a mute person who's made to speak by my Supreme Lord and my spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai.
Ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Antapati Vaishnavindi ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Kantaraj ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna to all the devotees.
Hare
Hare Krishna.